Sarah Boone tried to get the last words in with a scathing letter. We're going to talk about it in today's video. Hey, newsflash, I've got some crappy news to go along with the crappy letter we're reading, but you're gonna like this kind of crappy news. Y'all, we're going from Sarah Boone to Colin Broom. In all serious, y'all know you've been watching me. I hear from a lot of you about this. I've been on a major health kick probably for like a year now or something like that, like really into lifting weights and doing that type of stuff. However, you already know if you follow me, okay? I have my moments where I'm constantly snacking, hitting up the pies, this, that, and the other. I get it, especially this time of year, right? My biggest thing that I have is anxiety in eating my feelings, okay? One of the biggest things that I made as a goal for myself to really be on track with my phone and like keeping track, all that type of stuff, is A, drinking enough water, and B, getting fiber into my diet on a regular basis. And Colin Broom does just that. So one thing I found for myself is like, even like lifting weights, going to the gym, all that type of stuff, even when I was like doing other products kind of like this, I would notice I was full and all that kind of stuff. However, I never liked the taste. I never liked that until I met Colin Broom. Now, Colin Broom does a lot of stuff, right? Not just the things that I notice that helps for me. So yes, the lightness in your gut, absolutely loves that. Getting you regular, promotes gut health, better weight management. It helps balance out all that stuff in your gut, and it improves your digestive system. For me, number one, I absolutely love the taste of the stuff. That is what has absolutely sold me on it. But also what I have noticed is, yes, it completely helps me out with feeling full, but not like that heavy kind of full, like a normal level, to where I'm not wanting to sit here and just eat my way through the day. Now, the biggest thing here for me is the psyllium husk that's in this. The fiber that's found in psyllium husk is amazing. It can help with everything from keeping you regular, like I said, diarrhea, to your blood pressure, which I also have issues with. Now, their website is incredibly informative, and it has this great little survey that you can do to go through and get all the information on things that you need to know about what you need specifically for your type of health and goals. Now, another thing I love about this is the smell. Oh my God, it smells good too. And like, you just do it real simple, okay? Real simple. We like real simple. We just do a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And you're gonna do one before and then after, right? Now, I'm hardcore. I just like to do a little shot, right? So I just do my thing in here. Oh my God. The taste alone is amazing. It tastes real, if that makes sense, right? That's a thing, okay? But that's literally it. I do it in with my little workout routine, all that kind of stuff. Whatever works for you. Look, I liked it so much I'm making a mess out of myself. But whatever works for you, works for you. I absolutely love it. You need to give it a shot. And guess what? They're hooking us up. In addition to their Christmas sale of up to 60% off, which is already like insane, right? They're doing another 10% if you use the link code on the screen, down the description box, all those things. So you're looking at up to 70% off to give it a try, okay? You can't lose. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Psh, sofa's back there. Psh, psh, psh. I'm right here. Psh, the boys are over there sleeping. My name's Paul if you're new to the channel, and if you're not new to the channel, well, guess what? My name's still Paul. Now, today we're going to be reviewing a scathing, almost 30-page letter from Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone was recently convicted and then sentenced to life for her crimes against her then boyfriend, George Torres. Now, Sarah wanted to get the last words in, and so she sent her unedited speech or apology off to the judge. So we're going to break this down into probably a couple of videos or whatever just to get through it, because it is crazy. I did a live chat and did a full read through like when it first came out, so that's on the other channel, linked down in the description below. But let's go ahead and dive on in. Here you see it's December 6, 2024. Mr. Michael Kranick received from judge, stamped on it along with her case number. And it says, Sarah writes, I'm enclosing, please, my complete statement to you and the world as I partially read during my sentencing hearing. By my reserving particular parts of my very true and meaningful statement, I was hoping to have been graced with your forgiveness, understanding, and consideration in any level or degree. For me, unfortunately, and regardless of whom I had speak on my behalf, or the number of your ignorant mind, was already made up by your clear error and full-blown unfair bias against me. Since your involvement in my crucible case as a whole, I have been unsuccessful in receiving anything from you as a supposed fair and neutral judge, except for your wish that I spend the rest of my life in prison. Please know and always remember, Mr. Cranick, I forgive you, still and sincerely. Please understand also the judge, according to Cicerio, is never to lose sight that he is simply a man, and that he cannot exceed the power given to him by his commission, that not only power but public confidence has been given to him, that he ought always very seriously to attend, not to his wishes, but to the requisitions of law, of justice, and religion. I am excited in my appeal, which speaks for itself. My case law as well, in which I am extremely proud to have achieved, and will continue doing so, now that I am no longer in your corrupt court, and free from your malevolent judicial grip. Sarah Boone versus the state of Florida. Okay, I've got to settle down. We're only on page 2. I'm going to lose my voice by page 3. Lord mercy, please hold. I also have added to my statement as a result of your blindness and impartiality. Foremost, your disgust in me as an outspoken woman, determined defendant, and proactive client. Hoping the next time you put on your listening ears and do not unfairly oppress the next as you have so blatantly done to me, you will never admit your many judicial errors, nor will the prosecutors theirs, and I will never admit to what you have wrongfully accused me of and judged me as. I am not a murderer. I am a survivor. I'm Sarah Boone. Black robe disease, arrogance in a judge, a slang term for a judge who flaunts judicial power and dominates proceedings at the expense of the dispensation of justice. Impartiality is the first duty of a judge before he gives an opinion or sits in judgment in a cause. He ought to be certain and absolute that he has no bias for or against either of parties. If he has any interest, even the most slightest in the cause, he is disqualified from sitting as a judge, and when aware of such interest, ought to lawfully and justly refuse to sit on the case. A delicacy which characterizes the judges in this country generally forbids their sitting in such a case. The judge not only be impartial, but must also follow and properly enforce the law, not abuse. He is bound to declare what law is, and not make it. Be not an arbitrator, but an interpreter of the law. It is their duty to be patient in the investigation of the case, understand circumstances and difficulties by all parties, careful in considering parts of a case in whole, and decent in judgment. She cites the law dictionary she got this from. But at the risk of practicing judicial centricism, a word I have coined in this presentation, others have called it black robe disease. Whether he was correct or not in my behavior, it is widely accepted that judicial behavior affects the jury. She cites herself. And then there is the worst of judicial ailments, the black robe disease, which is otherwise known as arrogance. She cites herself. Trial judges are affirmatively charged with securing a fair trial and must intervene such a response, I believe it says, to that end when necessary. She cites herself. That duty encompasses not only the avoidance of error before it occurs, but the fair correction of error that may have occurred earlier in a proceeding. She cites herself again. Not herself, but she gives a citation, you know what I'm saying? In the instant case, the trial judge did not analyze the evidence. he added to it, dealing with a mere mannerism of the accused in giving his testimony. The judge put his own experiences with all the weight that could be attached to it in the scale against the accused. She gives her citation. Now we're going to enter into her speech that she did, okay? Kintsukuroi is a kind of Japanese ceramic style, which means to repair with gold. In this tradition, when a ceramic piece breaks, an artisan will fuse the pieces back together again using liquid gold or gold dust lacquer. So rather than being covered up, the breaks become more obvious and a brilliant new piece of art emerges from the brokenness. It embraces flaws, weaknesses, and imperfections, and also teaches the essence of resilience. Every crack in a ceramic piece is part of its history, and each piece becomes more beautiful because it has been broken. This is the wisdom of Kintsukuroi. In my wisdom, and with all of my repairs, then, now, and ongoing, God is, has been, and will always be my artisan. All of my gold is forgiveness. This has held me together, made me shine brighter, and overcome the damage caused by George Torres, the Torres family, the justice system, Judge Wooten and Kranick, Orange County Corrections Department, social media, scoundrel detectives, infamy, defamation, ongoing constitutional rights violations, second-degree murder, and being forced into pro se. Just as gold is very precious, forgiveness is invaluable. Forgiveness is not an attempt to change or forget who, what, or how you've lived through to be so gold, but act of grace, humility, and considerable self-compassion. To be set free from sorrow. Withholding forgiveness denies your brilliance and adds even greater grief and deep heartache. Irreparable cracks on top of the already that no one deserves. No matter the pain or disappointments, untruths or justice. It doesn't matter, as the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become more outstanding, more extraordinary. Above all, when you let go of blame, misunderstandings, excuses, give up your anger and cease from resentment. This is forgiveness. And when you forgive, you heal. And when you heal, you move forward. My gold begins with George Torres and everything. And no, let me repeat that, start that over. My gold begins with George Torres, and every time he slapped me, kicked, punched, spit on, arred, stabbed, choked, laughed at, pushed, pulled, dragged, whipped, tripped, stole from, lied, terrorized, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded, made me cry. Every time he tried to end me, defeat, or destroy. I forgive George for beating me senseless for trying to sleep because I had to go to work on my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, for my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over, for breaking or removing the locks from all the doors, and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on his bed, for terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond, or scrape their remains off the pavement, for kicking them off the bed and throwing them across the room because they were trying to protect me, for threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all the bruises from George beating me like all the times their father beat their mother, for all the drunken rages and fistfights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I escaped, for drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black guys and a bloody nose, for making me experience what it is to be sodomized, threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece, for threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job, for holding me hostage on weekends my son was supposed to come over, by keeping my keys around his neck and my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or even try and leave, for stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from not being arrested, for destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called, for me experiencing ever being arrested and after today, prison, for beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe, for having me experience what it means to see stars, like in the cartoons, where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, many times, dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night, just to sit next to him, for taking my car, driving drunk with my debit card to buy more alcohol while I slept, even after I kindly explained the importance of my car to take my son, my little wee son, to school foremost, for me to work, and he to his battery intervention classes and probation officer meetings, where I would be forced to sit for hours in the parking lot waiting for him, for causing me so much trauma and pain mentally, physically, emotionally. I had to be hospitalized more than once, for destroying my reputation and integrity, for my for murderer, scarlet letter, not letting me feel safe to live, talk to other people, spend time with my son, have a job, friendships, simply go to the bathroom with the door closed, or go to sleep soundly or comfortably. I forgive George for lying, for him trying so many times to end me with his terrifying love. I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2, count them everybody, 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was capable of and has done in the past, with his history of violence and where he learned it, then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help. All of his siblings, including Farrell Torres, who is now on his way to prison for stabbing the mother of their baby in the side of her head, for everyone who knew what George was doing to me. Sometimes, how and when, but allowed and enabled. I forgive them for caring too late. I hope that they all ask themselves, while quiet and comfortable, snuggled in bed at night, the uneasy question I present to you. What could I have done to stop this from happening to both of them, And after all the times poor little Sarah tried to, by asking for help from all of us so many times. Another great contributor of my gold is social media, with its greed and insensitivity, deception, obvious exploitation, and advantageous gain from my criminal case as a whole, and for sentencing me by anticipation as a result of ignorance and hate conjured and fabricated by the organized crime that is social media, which condemned me and court of global public opinion since the beginning. My family case law is the new prey, waiting to be picked apart and pillaged for me being made infamous by social media in my criminal case. It simply seems I cannot forgive and be forgiven, and move forward. Social media has made me a pariah. It has caused great oppression and undeniable disadvantages, especially by broadcasting and manipulating my cases online. In my criminal case, as a result, my opportunities to be given a fair, proper, and uninfluenced, successful conclusion was heavily depleted and poisoned. I forgive them. Also, all the media tycoons for not having a life of their own, trying so desperately to make themselves seem so right by making me appear so wrong. Forgiveness for prejudgment, ridiculous theatrics, lies, making and taking blood money from my and others, misfortunes, accidents, and catastrophes. It's all over their hands and keyboards. And even after all that's been said and done, theorized, hypothesized, scrutinized, blasphemed in my case, still no one knows me. My gold runs deep for my prior attorneys. Maurice Padilla, who sold me the world with empty promises, then abandoned his responsibilities as my attorney after taking 2.5 years of my life, when finally realizing he was in over his head, all while hoarding JAC dollars to fund his staycations with his family when in town from Miami, for having resources readily and available, not allowing me, the client, to ever utilize which could have greatly progressed my case and perhaps concluded, only for him to decide water parks, fine dining, choice hotels were more important. And on the JAC's dime, I forgive Frank Bankowitz for committing perjury to the judge and on court record about my attempts to be a proactive defendant and client, inquiring about my discovery, then trying to communicate with no answer or correspondence in any manner for 1 full year and 2 months before I was able to finally meet with him in the courtroom, only to receive his motion to withdraw. Frank J. Bankowitz is forgiven for his greed in taking $15,000 from the JAC, who honorably did aid in indigent defendants as myself, for taking advantage of and robbing the justice system by lying and avoiding clients, taking their money and the JAC's. Winston E. Hobson receives my forgiveness, who also unethically perjured himself to the judge and on court record about all the progress and attorney work he did in my case for the 2 months he was court appointed, as for his allegations of my supposed unethical request, which meant me asking about my discovery and trying to have him file a motion for my lawful inclusion to my pretrial conferences cited under FRCP Discovery Rule 3.22001. I wanted to be included in my case and know my progress from being excluded by Bankowitz and Padilla over 3 years prior. Forgiveness also in telling me he would return in a week with my discovery, only to receive his motion to withdraw in the meantime. Still not receiving my discovery, and I'm filing my own motion, enabling me to go to all my hearings, including my pre-trial, so nanny boo-boo. Continued forgiveness in his greed and selfish intentions, also for robbing the JAC and the indigent defendants of $15,000 more for nothing, justifying any work he really did do in the handful of days he represented me as my attorney. Finally, and with all my gold received from this one, I forgive Patricia A. Cashman for her mean, snotty, egotistical attitude and not listening or caring that I finally received my discovery I kept asking her for, which she fully withheld from me, citing her ridiculous, untrue reason was because I saw with my first attorney 4 years prior, and while she, being my present at the time attorney, I saw not one page of or any digital evidence of my discovery, she prohibited me from seeing. Patricia A. Cashman is also forgiven for admitting I had a right to a bond I asked her for, so I could actually utilize one of my rights, as opposed to having them always violated as prior and still ongoing. Then her deterrence of all my opportunities to do so. For all her lies and condescension, gross unnecessary arguments, and anger that I asked any questions and wanted to understand. For her doing nothing other than give me an even harder time and request transcripts, then brazenly lie for over $16,000 for doing so. Also from the precious resources provided from the JAC. I forgive Patricia A. Cashman for being a liar and a bully. Forgiveness for all those who did not include me to receive my $15,000 share I worked for when Judge Cranick forced me to be my own attorney. To represent myself as pro se, I actually and finally got my own discovery almost 5 years later. Filed motions all prior should have been done, making them the most expensive motions ever at over $46,000 and counting. Between the 3 prior attorneys, Frank J. Bankowitz, Walter E. Hobson, and Patricia A. Cashman. Would they have done so when supposedly representing me? The motions would have been priceless for the proper use of the JAC funds toward ethics, professionalism, honesty, and freedom. I honorably utilized my JAC resources and mentorship as a proactive indigent defendant, avidly defending myself against the liars, thieves, and real villains in my criminal case. Who really is the criminal? The JAC can hopefully include their forgiveness for them also. Judge Wooten and Cranick, I have great forgiveness for also, in not protecting me and listening to my valid request for judicial intervention, so I could properly and fairly defend myself against my charges. Instead, I had to defend myself against the attorneys, all appointed by the judge and court, against their lies and exaggerations. Reasons unjustifiable why they were really creeping away from the battlefield and abandoning their professional duty as my attorney. Judge Cranick, I forgive you for not giving me any opportunity to stand at your pulpit, to stand at all, to explain the real, truthful side of the story. I believe if the justice system, including yourself, would and should have done any vital homework on the already almost see-through attorneys, from being spread so thin and simply sending an email to care about their present workload, number of clients, trial schedules already in place, before throwing another inmate defendant, unknowing client on their heaping, unimportant pile of warm bodies, more taxpayer dollars could be conserved and less time consumed and wasted for everyone, regardless of what part they play in the supposed system of justice. My forgiveness is deepened for taking even greater time of mine away. Years by not caring to ask me anything about anything to understand, so you could justify justly render your life-defining judgments and withhold any more bias and prejudice. Foremost, Judge Cranick, I forgive you for kicking me when I was down and choking the life out of my constitutional amendments. Most profoundly, my sixth right to counsel as a result of my wholehearted use of my First Amendment right to free speech, and being my own advocate since no one else would be, and received a paycheck for, and all my free speech experience-driven letters only for remedy in any collaboration inclusion receiving my discovery as an inmate, defendant, and client, not reprimand of any attorneys to cause more delays or any reason or excuse you may try to force on me and have already and appropriately accused me of doing prior with your heavily insinuated strategies of mine to try and deflect the glaring red flags, disappointments, and true crime in and out of the justice system. To this day and forward, I do not forfeit my rights, any of them, ever, especially my right to be bold, outspoken, and write in my real-life experiences with the legal and justice systems. You weren't there, Judge Cranick, in anything. No meetings, phone calls, visits, and still took my rights and oppressed harder. I must now defend myself against you, praying you do not care too late as all the others, and retaliate further against me as a still proud citizen of the United States of America, and freely, excitedly using my God-given rights to still try to defend myself, to stand all the way up for you to remove my freedoms altogether by allowing and approving my stab wound, bloody body parts, R's, bumps, something I don't know, and all the rest of the beatings I endured. I hope you can finally see and understand just some of the pain from the extreme difficulties, obstacles, and unfairness, especially in my due process, you have added in my criminal case and life as an inmate, defendant, and client. All is forgiven. Okay, everybody, so that we're going to take a break on that note, okay, y'all? Let's just go ahead and reel it all back in, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of my thoughts about stuff I've kind of made like timestamps and whatnot on the second part of the video. So just be on the lookout for that because I'll put all my thoughts. I'm going to kind of reserve them because I've got thoughts, okay? Trust me, I've got thoughts. So, that being said, stay tuned. If you are still watching, you know what? I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad. And if you could, while you're down in the comment section, if you are down there, drop some little sofas off for myself, Rosco, and Spirit, the boys who have slept so nicely as they do, so that we'll have a place to hang out on the sofa and talk about this case and all the other ones that we do here at the Sofa Squad. And until we meander on down there to do that, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.